Welcome to the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko, and we are here to serve you again. Today is May 7th, and we are about to engage my beautiful guests who are very experienced in the subject matter we're about to talk about. So we want you to get to your set. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, we encourage you to like the page and share it with your friends. Remember, this is the #1 community platform, community building platform in the world. And here is where we engage in dialogues that are designed to build our communities. We would come back to our guests in a second. Before we do so, again, this is a virtual radio podcast. So when you come on, we encourage you to let your friends know about what we're doing here so we can all be a participation in this community building agenda. Today, we will look at marriage, but specifically the issues of finances in marriage. How trivial, how critical is finances, the challenges of finances in marriage, whether it helps it grow or pulls it down. We want to be able to have a conversation about it. Feel free to join us as we go along. The number will be given out so you can be a participant in this decorum this evening. I'll go straight to my guest. And we would be introducing ANNET there. She is not a stranger on this platform. She was supposed to be here with her dear husband, Reverend Ebenezer Dare, but unfortunately he fell ill last night. So we apologize for those of you who are expecting to see Reverend Dare. He's a great man, great pastor. But instead, his wife will do it all. So ANNET Dare, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Senna, for having me. And again, Reverend sends his greetings. He's around. And like you said, I will try to fill in his shoes as much as I can.
Tell us a bit about redemption. I know it's Calvary redemption.
Calvary.
Right. Go ahead. Tell us a little about yourself, the pastor, the church, and what's the makeup of the church. What do you stand for?
All right. Again, once again, thank you for having us. Calvary Redemption Center is a non-denominational church in Skokie, Illinois. Okay. We've been around for a bit. The senior pastor and founder is Reverend Ebenezer Day.
Okay.
I've known for the last 18 years. We've been married 17 years, and we have 4 children. We started the church together. The makeup of the church is our background. Both of us are originally from Ghana, but believe it or not, we met here. We didn't know each other in Ghana at all. We met here. But interestingly, the makeup in terms of a congregation is very diverse. We have about 42 different nationalities that are represent our church. It's fun. We just had an event where we talked about, it was called Dinner Talk. And sometimes we do those things where it was about talking about relationships and advising and encouraging the young people to do it God's way. Personally, by profession, I'm a nurse. I did nursing for 21 years. I don't know if I call myself retired or resigned. I am in full-time ministry now, but I am also a holistic wellness coach. And my drive and my passion is to see women fulfill their mandate here on earth. And I'm very passionate about godly marriages. So that's a little bit about me.
She is passionate about godly marriages. How about the ungodly marriages? What's the difference?
The difference is doing the marriage God's way.
Okay.
That's right.
So we would like to start actually, what is marriage in God's way? But before that, let's hear from this beautiful couple here. Elders Cornell and Ronda Holland. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. This is the first time. And please tell us about your lovely marriage life, your careers, if you may, and then, of course, your church.
Well, thank you for having us, Senna. We're Elders CONELL and Ronda Hollins. We attend Family Christian Center here in Munster, Indiana.
Yeah,
I've been a member there for about 17 years. My wife's been there since she was knee high. We actually oversee the marriage prep for marriage track with the church, where we've I've seen maybe a little over 3,000 couples come through the course in the last 17 years.
Yeah.
So we've been pretty good about that, and that's been our fourth baby.
Yeah.
We're parents of 3 wonderful young men of God.
Yes.
Ethan, Aiden, and Avery,
Yep.
who's our youngest, our 3-year-old. And that's God's funny sense of humor right there, because we thought we were done. I'll let my wife speak a little bit, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have what we call Me to We Ministries, because often, especially for new couples, because we really focused on engaged couples, all seasons of marriage. But when people walk in to get married, I think they're really caught up on the wedding dress, the wedding day, the tuxedo, but they're not thinking of the marriage. So when we came up with Me to We kind of aligned it to almost when someone is on, if you go to a tombstone and you know how you see a sunrise and a sunset for someone, and then that little part in between, that little dash in between is supposed to stand for their life. We wanted to say, hey, let's talk about those transitions to life. So from me to we, because there is a transition and it's something that lasts the whole lifespan of a marriage. And we too are extremely passionate about godly marriages, God-centered marriages, because it makes a difference. You know, we've seen so many marriages, they do make it, they do survive, but we want marriages that thrive, and they thrive when God is at the center.
That's
Brilliantly said, guys. So let's begin with what you are. You are obviously passionate about a lot of things, but the godly marriage. Let's begin from there. And since you brought it up, Reverend Annette, I'd like you to give us that. I'd like you to start with us. What, in your opinion, of course, we all know what godly marriage is, but what's the difference between that and people who do not marry in your term godly, in a godly way?
So for me, as a believer, I do things according to the Bible, and I believe that marriage, whether it's godly or ungodly, the original marriage was instituted and ordained and established by God. And we see that in Genesis, where God creates a man that we've all come to know as Adam, and then gives Adam an assignment and looks at the assignment and says, it's not good for this man to do this assignment alone. So I'm going to bring a help meet to him so that the assignment can be accomplished. And for me, that is what a godly marriage is all about, where it's not self-centered, but it is for an assignment. That marriage is not something that I feel like I'm at a certain age, or it's a check off to say that I've done this, I've graduated, I've had the job, I've secured this, and now let me check off as the next item. But it is to go in knowing that it's a mandate and an assignment from God. And so I have to resort to the way he wants it done. That's the difference, in my opinion.
Thank you. To both of you, if somebody does not marry in the godly way, is that supposed to, would you look at that marriage and say, I don't think is going to last? Would you have any skepticism regarding that marriage?
Well, one, if they're married, you know, they have now, whether they realize it or not, we believe God can do anything. You know, I have seen marriages that we may have been, you know, skeptical about initially, but when God took over and he got in there, it completely transformed the relationship, their children, and anyone else that viewed that marriage. And so I think what's important for anyone to realize when you're getting married is to recognize that marriage is the first ordained relationship created by God. And so it was the example of Christ's love for the church. You know, he was the groom, Jesus is the groom, and Christ is the saints. And we're all coming together for that one wedding day. And that's why we want to make sure that we are living up to that standard, that we take it and look at it at a different level. Because you have to admit, when people get married, they have a different expectation. They can be dating forever, but then as soon as you get married, there's a level of expectation that comes up. And I do believe that's heavenly mandated. So, you know, you have to think of it that way is what I would say, just from personal experience and from the couples that we have, you know, mentored over the years.
Okay. Looks like your husband agrees, so we wouldn't wouldn't ask him to give his opinion. Your opinion is his opinion on this matter.
He has his own opinion. We are one flesh.
We are. But that's how you stay married for 16 years, though. Agree.
Now,
he has his own opinions, and I like them.
So thank you for clarifying that. That was on the light side, but thanks for the clarification. I think that when you say even with marriages that did not start with God, when God comes in, it kind of flourishes and takes off. In your work as counselors, and this is to both of you, but I'll start with Elder Cornell. In your line of work, counseling people and dealing with marriages, have you seen the godly ones, at least the ones that started with God or eventually brought God in, being more sustainable than the ones that do not have God in them?
I strongly believe that it can actually literally still go both ways. So if you really think about it, the church body is made up of more women than men, if we're being honest, right?
Yes.
So a lot of those times, strong women are holding a man down who's at home maybe and not really in the house of God like he should be. But she's praying for that marriage, she's praying for that family. And if he's a true man of God, and if he's really about this marriage, eventually that situation will turn itself around. We've actually seen that in older couples, let alone younger couples. So I strongly believe it can go both ways, where a couple that where one doesn't start out with God and the other one does, that they can kind of push through and kind of make it and bring that, into one, and vice versa. A couple who starts out with God, sometimes we can get church hurt to a certain extent in certain situations where we're turned off at a certain point by not so much God, but by that body of Christ, that house. And they might need, refreshing, rejuvenating, or they might just need to be coached up more because they've experienced something along the way. So it can definitely go both ways.
Okay, thank you very much. Reverend Annette, how long did you say you've been married so far?
17.
17
well,
years.
traditionally 18, and then.
Right. Okay. Congratulations on your 18th anniversary.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know, but I think that you have, and in your 18th years of marriage, 18 years of marriage, you have counseled a lot of people. How many years would you say you've been counseling, married folks?
So about 15 years now. 15
years. Now, in all of this, what has been the experience? Marriages with God in them having more challenges, or the other way around?
So let's define, when people talk about godly marriage, we assume that just because two people are married in the church, that it's godly.
Right.
I define godly marriage as a marriage that has God in the center and the circumference of the marriage. Oftentimes, we Christians will say God is at the center, which is a good thing, but is he on the circumference of whatever it is that you're doing as well? Because oftentimes what happens is we say he's in the center, so we focus on him, but we can turn the other direction. He's not on the circumference and the peripherals of the marriage as well. That's when it goes. So now when you look at statistics shows that divorce rate is just as much in the church and outside the church. And in my opinion, just because a couple married in the church doesn't mean it's godly. A godly marriage is when that marriage is defined and ruled and identified by God's principles.
Amen.
Okay.
And so looking at that, it depends on how you're looking at it. Just because two people went to the church altar and got married does not mean that it is a godly marriage.
Right.
Absolutely.
And when you keep saying godly marriage, you are talking about Jesus Christ being a center. Is that the reference?
The center and the marriage itself. You see, any organization, any institution, which marriage is an organization or institution, has missions and values, right? So the values and the missions or the vision is what guides and drives the institution or the organization. As long as Christ and his word is the governing rules or the vision for which the marriage thrives on, then absolutely those marriages that I have seen have overcome every obstacle, because the two people are not doing it on their own. They are building on Christ and letting the Holy Spirit lead every decision that they make.
Amen. Right. Amen. Well said.
Yeah, that said, right? That said, are there any stats indicating marriages that have, broken down in the church versus outside the church? Are there numbers? Are there stats to show this, to indicate these two scenarios?
So the stats that I believe it was done by Pew shows that the number of divorce rates is the same as outside the church and inside the church.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But they're not measuring what it is that they're looking at specifically.
Great.
Yeah.
So one would say if church folks that have God in the circumference and in the center are equally getting divorced, then what is the motivation or the enticement to want to do it God's way? Why can't we just go ahead and live together? Because both ways are having issues, and I mean both are having issues anyway, right? Cornell.
Right. That's what it looks like. So let's look at that's what it looks like. But let's look at a country like America, where now I don't know what the statistics are, but I'm huge on research, so I do a lot of research. I read a lot of research materials, right?
Okay.
Where predominantly of America says we're Christians, right? America was founded on Christian principles, but when you really pay attention to it, just a smaller percentage of Americans now actually live according to their Christian principles. So just because a person shows up in church and marries, if they are not living the way that the church is set up to live, and we do as statistics, then we're going to say America is a Christian nation, but ... And so the ones that I've counseled that are living according to the word, that divorce rate from my personal encounters is very, very low. It's extremely low. So it doesn't measure up to that 50% just because we put down that we're Christians.
Right.
A lot of people say they're Christians, but they don't go to church. They don't pray.
That's
they don't
true.
read the word, right? So if you are looking at that aspect to define your research, the research is already skewed.
Okay. Cornell,
Exactly.
Cornell and his wife, I would like to get your opinion on this.
Go first.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say that first, I'm in agreement with that because what we have found with a lot of the couples that we are counseling or working through, everyone has a different understanding of what it means to be godly married. Sometimes they believe just because they got married in the church, now they are 100%, godly married, or they may immediately believe they're equally yoked. And that's another, aspect of it all. There are different ways to be unequally yoked in a relationship. But if you have someone that already has a belief that is not, where they're not a member of the body of Christ, they're just an attender, meaning like they come, and not to make a joke, but you know how it is sometimes the busiest days in churches, and Pastor Annette, you can say this, you can let me know if you agree, but Mother's Day, Easter, Christmas, everyone comes into church. Because that's when it's all the pump and flare, right? But we're talking about, really being embedded and also being a member of that body of Christ, meaning that you are serving in some capacity. And when we are noticing that couples are serving, that they're giving back, that they're also helping bringing others into the body of Christ, we notice that they tend to have a stronger relationship with God. And then also the relationship tends to last that much longer. And so when we hear couples that are saying, oh, I believe in God, and you know what, that's great. We all know there is no way you do not know who God is. And when you do find out who he is, you know, he's always going to give an opportunity for you to find him. But when everyone knows that there is a God and he is the only God that we all serve, however, whether you know, we have heard those jokes where people say, well, God knows my heart. That's why I don't come to church. And the key is, do you know his heart, right? Are you aligned with him? Do you understand what he wants you to do? Are you reading his words and his precepts upon precept in order for you to engage and let it become a part of your life, right? Are you being transformed by his word, where you want to love your neighbor, where you want to love your mate, where you want to be there and see others come and be baptized for the remission of their sins? Like, that's when you're on fire for God. And when you're on fire for God, and then your mate is on fire for God, when one of you gets weak, then the other one can lift the other up and push you through, so that you have what is called a God-centered marriage that others will want to be as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if...
Yes, I was going to say, to your point, though, to the question, I think it's so important that as married couples, we are that light for other couples. You know, we tell couples all the time, gravitate towards someone who you see something like yourself in, and you want to do better than what they did. So like we tell couples, like, we're good, but I want you to be better than what we are from a marriage standpoint. And so it's so important that you let your light shine in this marriage, because whether you know it or not, somebody's watching you, whether it be your own children, your little cousins, nieces, nephews, they're watching your marriage and they want that. They see it and they want it. And that's how we embody God and Christ in this marriage, by being that light for others to see, no matter what other marriages are going through. You know, you just have to focus on this and make sure you project, not a fake projection, because, you know, just like Facebook and anything else, we can make things look pretty. But you have to be your most authentic self, because people can see through that and project that out to the world and let the good and the bad show, because we all know, Miss Annette knows as well as we do, like it's going to be some days, but those days, iron is sharpening iron, and that's what you want. I don't want everything to be unicorns and rainbows, because when it's that good, I know somebody is biting their tongue or just kind of going with emotions, and that's when that wave gets real rocky. So it's so important that we have a voice in this marriage. And then again, we just let that shine, especially like right now to our young boys, so they see what marriage is and see what marriage isn't, and desire even more. Because I know as a child, I had one of the worst examples of what a marriage was, but yet I still desired marriage because I had hopes of what it could be for myself.
Thank you all so much. It's 6:23 p.m. You are logged on to the Progressive Mind Show on Facebook, live on YouTube as well. Once you're there, like the page, share it so we can all be part of this great conversation. We also have our recorded episodes on Spotify. So if you're driving to home or work, or at home, you want to listen to some positive or encouraging conversations regarding family, diaspora, you can, of course, check us out on Spotify, The Progressive Mind Show on Spotify. Of course, we are on all social media platforms, and it is The Progressive Minds Show. This evening, we are looking at challenges of finances in marriages and relationships, and we are talking to Reverend ANNET there. Her husband couldn't join us last minute due to ill health. We are praying for him, and we also have elders Cornell and Ronda Hollins, who are here. They have been counseling for a long time, for many years. And that's an incredible feat, okay, to be able to counsel more than 3,000 people. That's incredible. And kudos to the work you've done.
Glory to God. Oh, glory to God. This is hard work.
Are you able to, now, would you say most of this counseling had been personal or virtual?
It was both. It's been both.
More recently, because of COVID, it's been more virtual. But yeah, in the beginning, it was personal. It was in the classroom. It was face to face. You know, it was on our knees praying. You know, right there with them. So
yeah, we were long suffering with them, and we still do. And you're right. If I may add in too, like when we first started, so we also have been doing this about 15 years. You know, doing the prep for marriage or different versions of marriage, like Marriage 101, and different aspects of showing levels of marriage. But we started off in the classroom, and I will never forget, we had our first class, we had 2 people that had showed up, and neither one of them were married, right? And so they wanted to be married, they had an aspiration for it. And we started to pray over the chairs and ask for God to increase it, we said, Lord, just make us get in the way of couples that need, type of marriage counseling, coaching, and insights, from a biblical perspective, but in a modern way. And so, over the years, it just started to grow. So our classes would end up being filled out, and we didn't have enough space. And we were thinking, how would this grow? Then the pandemic occurred. And when the pandemic occurred, then we went virtual because that was the only way we all could communicate. And we had one class in particular. Usually our courses are going anywhere from 8 to 11 weeks. That course went for 20 weeks, in 2020. And after that, we got people from all over, globally. We got people from Africa, we had from the UK, Australia, and everyone come in, and we found the common thread that everybody, love is God, God is love. And, and we're all going through the same things, and he's the only one that can get us out. Awesome. And so when we see all of this now with the couples, they stay in contact. We have different, what we call group me's, and where we all stay connected. And every time they get a marital milestone, they let us know. So once someone gets officially engaged, we put them on our website, and we tell everybody they've made it. They're now a marital rock star, meaning God is the rock in the center of their marriage. And then we also, if they're having a baby, if they're having baby showers, we're involved in every aspect of it, because we want them to understand that, it's a community. And a lot of times people believe that it's almost like with kids, right? How they say it takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a community of kingdom-minded believers to raise a marriage, and you just can't do it alone. And it's good to have people that love you so much that they won't choose one side or the other. They choose the both of you. Absolutely. And so, I hope that gives a little bit more.
No, it is an incredible, to be honest, it is an incredible story, and I'm looking forward. I hope that we can come back and do a whole segment, with your story alone. Because 3,000 and up, 3,000 and counting, it's and you all look like you were in your 30s, so
we knew we like you. We knew it.
I received that. I received
the guy.
And to have been able to do this in a span of how many years? 15 years, you said?
15 years. We've been married 16, so they threw us right in.
So this 3,000 would say in the past 15 years you've been able to do this in the past 15 years. Okay, so that's so we know that hopefully we can get to have this story told, and we can look at the details, how you started, where you are, and how you're able to even maintain all of these people and all of that. But for right now, I think that the subject matter is very, very critical. And I'd like you to tell us, and I'll throw this question to you, Cornell, again, and we'll come to Reverend Annette. The main causes of divorces in this country.
The main causes of divorce in the country right now, obviously, one of the main ones is communication. Okay. For lack of a better word, irreconcilable differences is what they tell you on TV.
Yeah.
Obviously infidelity, but finances is one of the top 3 in my opinion.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that you come together, and sometimes you're not asking the right questions before you get together. Like Ronda said, we actually have couples do a survey where they have to ask these certain questions, and one of the questions is, "What's your credit score?" Now, if I tell you to ask a young lady that, you're thinking to yourself, maybe on what date do I ask her that? The first date, the second date, I don't know. But it's so important that we kind of get through the fluff of, what color do you like? What's your favorite movie? And if I see that I'm going to be with this person, because one thing we don't have is time, right? So we can't be wasting it on somebody we don't see that longevity with if we do desire marriage. So it's so important that we get to these questions, and one of them being those financial questions. Like, what is your 401k looking like? Do you have a Roth? Things of that nature. Because the whole point of marriage is, like the Reverend said, is a mission, and our mission is to grow together. And in that same token, grow your finances. You know what I mean? So it's just so important that we're having those conversations.
Great. So top three finance is in the top three. Okay. Reverend Annette, how about you?
Again, like Elder Cornell said, oftentimes what we hear is finance is the number one. But like you rightfully said, it's communication, because the communication is what leads to everything. But yes, finance is on the top list of what causes challenges in marriages.
So if that is the case, finances, do you think that in your counseling of in your counseling career of people, whether they are in serious relationships, wanted to get married, or married folks, do you see this topic, finance, does this topic come up a lot when you're dealing with counseling, when you're counseling folks? Reverend Annette, sorry.
So this is what I would say. I am really big on finance. Okay. And the issue that is alluded to marriage is actually not marriage. It starts off with the individuals. In my personal opinion, I think financial literacy should be started in kindergarten.
Yes.
So why it comes up as a challenge in marriage is because we're bringing two people that are illiterate, and the word here is illiterate, in the financial space. So anything that is a challenge between two people that are coming together, it's going to be looking at the challenge in it. Elder Cornell talked about communication. I believe that communication 101 should also start in preschool, because a lot of us don't know how to communicate. We know how to articulate our words, and we think that that is communication. And so the reason why finance is, and I believe it starts again with the individual. How are they budgeting? Do they understand budgeting? Are they spending more than they have? Do they think about the future when they're spending and things like that? And it starts off with even our weddings these days. Personally, I think it's absolutely
that's it.
because marriages are focusing more on the day off as opposed to how is our finance going to be after the day.
Okay. That's right.
Oh, and so would you say that you have personally encountered folks in relationship or in marriage who are going through a lot of who have issues that are rooted in finance?
Yes. Issues that are rooted in lack of communication and being clear about their finance. And it's not just a marriage. I see that in the pre-counseling before the marriage.
Okay, they're not being clear about their finances. Okay, is that the same? Is that
they don't understand finance?
Right. Okay, thank you. Is that the same case with you as well, Cornell?
Well, I think that yes, just plain and simple, yes. As far as finances go, I think the biggest issue is they don't have financial acumen because no one has trained them. Because if you think generationally, from the African diaspora or even African American culture, it's about the way that you look, and what you have is what gives you status. And so sometimes they're chasing or trying to keep up with the Joneses in a sense, and not really looking at their financial literacy, as Reverend said. The other thing that we notice too is because they have never been taught that, and they don't know that financial acumen, whereas with other cultures, if we think of the Caucasian culture, it's grandfathered in. Those things are taught to them, yay high. They understand, hey, you should have an emergency plan. Do you have a retirement plan? Do you have a trust, for your family? Do you have a living trust? Do you have a living will? All these things are grandfathered in. Whereas with our communities, we don't know that up front. And then we go, and the very first financial test is in fact the wedding, and on the wedding day, which is supposed to be focused on their love, them giving themselves in covenant before God, should be the centerpiece. What's the centerpiece is all these different things that are going to put them in further debt before they could walk down the aisle and say do. So we're basically trying to save their marriage before it starts, because they don't even know what they're building for, what they're trying to do,
Agreed. And then, so if you actually think about it, think about this world right now, the world will tell you get a do-over to a certain extent. So if you look on the street every 5 minutes or so, you'll see a billboard for bankruptcy. You can file bankruptcy and start over.
Yep, you can do the same thing.
Chapter 11, start over. Same thing with divorce. Yes, every 5 minutes you'll see a billboard for divorce and bankruptcy. So the world is telling you have do-overs, when in most cases you don't, because that follows you to a certain extent. And why not get it right the first time, whether that be marriage or your finances? Why not get it right the first time?
Right. So you were talking about some specifics where you mentioned credit score, Roth IRA, and all those investment portfolios. Are these questions that you thought, are these the questions that you think that people who are aspiring to get married to be discussing, right from the get-go?
Yes. And also spending habits, like we ask a question, we'll say, what is the limited amount? What is the amount that you can spend, the most you can spend without notifying your mate, right? Out of a joint account. We'll ask them that. And we'll have one person that'll say they can't spend more than $100. And then we have another person that'll say $5,000. And so right there, they're unequally yoked in their financial perspective, They're not
having those conversations.
They're not having those conversations, and they're caught up in, oh, I love you, you're so cute, all this, the outside. But that's not what makes a marriage last. And so, you're absolutely right. It's probably one of the most difficult conversations.
It's pivotal.
It's very pivotal, and we'll put it in front of them. And honestly, that's when we start to see, chinks in the armor, right? When they start to get upset with one another when we put these questions to them, and we let them know, hey, this is going to be difficult, but if you can't get through this class, you shouldn't get married.
Reverend Annette, you want to add to that?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with everything that it said. I believe, again, I think one of the things that Elder Ronda brought up that is very, very important is that we hear that finances is the challenge in marriages, but we have to be also, again, that's how I say that the research is skewed. Finances typically tend to be the challenges in minority marriages, because again, when you look at the Caucasian family, they usually are a bit more financially literate than us. Again, us meaning what my skin look like and me as an African woman, right? I'll give you a quick example.
Right.
We live in a community where it's predominantly Caucasian. And last week I was walking my children home, and my older son, who's 14, looks at me and says, Mommy, you wouldn't believe this. This little boy that looks like 3 feet. And then my younger one says, he's a 5th grader, was talking about recession, and he's giving numbers, important numbers. And it was a time for us to educate. And I said, you know why a little boy like that is talking about it? Because that is the conversation that is happening at home. Right? So in 5th grade, he knows what is happening in the world economy globally. Our children, what are they talking about, and what do they know?
Oh, that's so well said. Well said. And what you just said too, also same situation. We're in predominantly Caucasian area.
14-year-old boy.
For our 14-year-old son in particular, there was a situation where they were talking about they were asking him, how do you have this? How do you have that? Like, they were so surprised. And they said, you're not, they said something that was very disrespectful, but just said to him, you're not like all the other ones. And so, he felt some kind of way. And we had to go up to the school and talk to them and educate them on how to speak to us. But there was some truth to what it was based upon his perception. That young boy's perception was, I haven't seen other people in my community that look like you. And why is that? And so, you know, and we need to change that. We need
Yeah.
to change that, you know, demographic.
We need to change that. And I completely agree. It's 6:40 and we are still discussing financial issues in marriages and relationships. If you want to ring in, we will give the number out in the next 20 minutes. Please feel free to share your comments on the feed. I've seen Charles Ajay is here. Fred Wolf is also watching us. Rebecca Mardy just joined us as well. Thank you all for chiming in. Charles says yes to some of the comments that was being shared, and then yeah, so those are some of the comments so far. If I don't see you, let me know you were here. Sometimes I'm not able to see everyone that has joined in, but this is a very important conversation when it comes to marriages and relationships in terms of sustaining them. So we're glad we're having this conversation now. But I think I also want to know the role. How has those traditional roles as Black and brown people having this African heritage, whether you were from America or Africa, we usually rely on those traditional rules, or at least refer to those core traditional roles where the man goes out and work, the woman stays and takes care of the child. So we kind of sometimes fend off from that philosophy, ideology, tradition. How much of that how much has that affected our way of handling finances, even now in marriages, and how is that impacting our relationships? I'll start with you again, Reverend Ronda and CONELL. You can take it from here.
Okay, thank you for that question. I strongly believe that we tend to, well, let me speak for me first. I apologize. So me myself, when me and Ronda got married, I only saw my parents' marriage, right? So I thought, okay, that's how my marriage is going to be, because you only know what you see and you do what you see because of that's your environment to a certain extent. And so I thought my marriage was going to be like my parents for the fact of like you said, my father going to work. My mother was more of the homebody, though she did work, but she was always the first one home because my father was a postman, so his hours would vary to a certain extent. So I thought that's what our marriage is going to be until we took the class that we now teach, until we started having these conversations and realized, oh, we can't be like them. Because, you know, society right now, like for instance, my father, car for like 8 hours of a day because that was his shift. I can't do that to my kids now. So we can't lean on what we learned from our parents for what we do now from the standpoint of especially our marriage. And I think that's a great thing, because if I try to live up to certain standards of certain people who I admire in their marriage, I'm going to fall short. And I can't hit their mark, but I can be the best me I can be, right? So it's so important that in my marriage, we have the communication about the standards we have within our marriage where finances are concerned, right? We have separate and joint accounts, and we put it, it goes into one and then it comes out of the other, and we make the decision, okay, like this account, that. It's really just about having the conversations. And I say that to say, because my parents weren't having these conversations. I've been in a household where my mother would pay half the light bill 1 month and carry the rest over and hope the lights didn't get cut off. But she didn't tell my dad that. And so when it got cut off, he's looking at her funny when that was her one bill in his mind, and he took care of everything else. But they weren't having these conversations. So it's so important that good, bad, or indifferent, you have these conversations, because sometimes the check might be short. So what are we going to do? God is going to sustain us. We're not going to stop tithing, but what are we going to do to make sure this, and this gets paid, and we got food in the refrigerator? You have to have the conversation. That's point blank, period.
Thank you so much.
Please,
Can I say, I'll make it brief, because what you said, I loved it, every bit of it. The other thing is, from a classroom standpoint, or for couples that are coming in, yes, I think people are getting gender roles confused often, and they are walking in, especially if they have no experience of marriage before, they may have a preconceived notion of the way it will work in their marriage. But every marriage is different, and it's supposed to be. You know, God has made all the lilies of the valleys different colors and everything, because he likes that unique uniqueness of all of us. He made us different for a reason. And so our marriages are aligned to be different. It's not meant to be like someone else's. And so when we're having those conversations with couples, we say, what works for you? Does it work for you both to be two working households, right? Where both the husband and the wife are working? Or does it work for you to have a stay-at-home mom? Does it work for you to be a stay-at-home dad? I mean, what works for your union and your finances is what's going to be very important. And when you put gender roles in and you confuse it with headship and submission, that's where the problem happens sometimes, where we read parts of the Bible and scripture and try to apply it to worldly standards. And that's not what's in the Bible. It doesn't say that. And people look at things, they don't read the entire precept upon precept. They don't read the whole word. And so they're getting half responses and changing it, and they're getting these mixed results. And we tell couples all the time, you can't date like the world and expect kingdom results. Those things aren't going to occur. So you're going to have to really take a look at how you want those finances to go. What is your backup strategy when things go wrong? Like, what is your backup plan? Like, we have an emergency fund. If something goes down, we pull from that emergency fund and we let each other know. We communicate everything. We're attached to each other's account, but we also have separate accounts that we can go do things we want to do separately. But that works for us. It doesn't necessarily have to work like that for you. So do what God has called you to do. Seek him first, right? Seek the kingdom and his righteousness, and then all things will be added to you. You know, you listen to God, you're gonna work it out. It's gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. It's the best way I could put it.
Awesome. Annette, Reverend Annette, you and I coming from Ghana, you understand this, firsthand. Imagining a man, saying, okay, or the family deciding, okay, the man should stay at home and take care of the baby because the woman now has a job. Fortunately, that's how, it worked out. How do you see envisaging this within the typical African family, and how, if somebody is going through this, what would be your advice in that scenario?
All right. Thank you for that question. Coming from a background where it's very patriarchal, I can relate to it. But that's why Elder Ronda said we have to look at it as individual. And I believe the culture is changing, right? Okay. I remember when my husband and I met, he thought I was too vocal because I had been here for a while and he was coming from Ghana. And so the cultural differences is really, really big here when we're dealing with people that are coming from different backgrounds, even experiences. So dealing with a couple from, even if they're from different, like one is African, one is from the Caribbean, they may both be Black or brown, but they have differences. This is how I would say it again, like Elder Ronda said, is that let's not look at the culture and the tradition that we're in, but what is it that's going to make work for us? I like examples. My very close friend, they're both from Ghana. They were married. When I had my oldest daughter, I had to stay with her because I was moving from Connecticut here, and they lived in Connecticut. They both know how to cook. They both love to cook. But because of our culture, if we had an event happening that day, the husband woke up extra early to cook to avoid the family from saying that, why is the man cooking? And they have been doing that and it's worked for them, right? So if the couple understand each other based on how they're going to do their finance, well, the woman may be more financially literate and handle the budget better, then it can be worked out at the end of the day, what's going to work for us and how can we do it, because we live in a culture where there are that expectation. So we can do it, but we can be discreet about certain things so that, again, for us, that culture and the elders it's important. We can have that conversation between the two of us and we can discreetly do it. So example, if the man is looked like less of a husband by taking care of the babies or whatever, then we can do it in such a way that when family is coming, or again, God says when we lack wisdom, we should ask him, and then it can be done in wisdom in a godly way.
Amen. So you would say you are a proponent of those who say all these African traditions and cultures, yes, they're good, some of them, but we've come a long way and we need to start looking at them because they not all of them might be good for us in this day and age. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Our
Because a lot,
culture is important,
yeah.
our tradition is important, but some of it is hurting us in this generation.
Right.
We need to look at it
It's
and not debunk it, but respectfully. Because again, coming from it, I can only speak for Ghana. We are known as respectful people, and so we need to respect it, but we need to communicate it in a respectful way and
Right.
prove that this is hurting more than blessing.
If a couple came to you and they're saying, look, we're about to start a business, or we of course we're married, or we're about to get married, and we have intentions, or perhaps we have a business, and our plan is that the woman stays at home and just be a housewife, and I would take care of the business. Now, would you say, what would be your advice to that woman? Would you say, okay, it's fair, that's a great idea, just go on ahead and be a housewife? Because there are instances where the business booms, becomes successful, and this usually happens from the African community. Now, okay, I'm the man, I'm the one that invested everything in this, and you are the housewife. You don't have access to all the money. I will pay for what you need, but you don't have access to the money. We've seen some of these things, and they are prevalent in our communities. What would be your advice from the get-go to a couple that maybe wanted to go this tangent? Annette.
For me, pre-marriage counseling is key. Pre-dating counseling is key. So I would ask the woman, or preferably meet both of them, and I will ask the woman how she feels about the decision that is being made. Is this a decision that's being made for her, or is she choosing to stay home, right?
Okay.
And for tradition's sake, again, I believe, and that's what I'm all for, is let's get educated before we start dating and marrying. So I would have to ask the woman, is this something that you're being told to do, or is this something that you prefer to do? And I believe that's where the counseling will start. If that's something that she desires to do, then we take it to the next step.
Right.
Then, as you are taking care of the home, you're taking care of the home so that he will be freed to do what he's doing. So then we go to the man. Is her name part of it? Is she going to be part of the decision making? How do you feel about that? And it's going to be case by case, but I definitely would make sure that that woman is choosing and agreeing to stay home because she is willing to do so, and she's not being told to do so. Because, Sana, like you rightfully said, we've seen too many of those stories where at the end of the day, the woman stayed home, her name is not on anything, it doesn't prove that she's part of it, and she is at a loss. And that, again, starts with education and communication.
Right. Thank you so much. Reverend Cornell, what do you see are the consequences of such an agreement or move?
Actually, it's crazy that you bring up this scenario. We actually have a couple that we married that had this exact scenario happen, where he'd already had a business before they got married. And then once they got married, he decided that he wanted to open a restaurant. It wasn't, I don't know if it was a mutual decision to a certain extent, but he kind of put the plan out there, and they kind of went with it. And we suggested to them that, they should probably wait, because they were very early in their marriage. And we all know the constraints that are taken like that can have on a couple. And it got to the point where he had to be there every day. And that took a toll on their marriage. And though they're better for it now, it was, for lack of a better word, it was a grind. It was a grind on their marriage. It was a grind on their pocketbooks. It was a grind on their intimacy, because they didn't have time for this anymore, because that became the new endeavor so early on in their marriage. So we typically tell couples, for instance, in our ministry, we don't ask couples always ask us, can we come help? Can we come help? And we say, yeah, that's fine. Come help. But the only requirement we have is you have to sit for a year to a year and a half with each other first. before you come back and help, because we want you to pour into each other first before you come and do this. Because this is hard work, this is good work when it comes to kind of helping other couples get where you're at. But you have to focus on this first, because if this isn't right at home, how are you going to help somebody else out in the world with what they're going through? So we definitely tell couples in the beginning to focus on this relationship first, and don't add all that other stuff to it right away. Yeah, because that'll come with time.
But we do ask them. We ask them to weigh it out. Is this good for you? And it's on the case by case.
Yeah. But then, Reverend Ronda, what you foresee as the danger in this type of scenario?
The danger is the same danger that you're seeing or you're experiencing from a point of Ghana. It's the same thing that happens in America. There is contempt that occurs. Like when we find one person is holding the purse strings in a sense, they become prideful. They become arrogant. They want to control everything. They become very controlling. And it's no longer we, we hear it's I, my, like that's my house. You owe me this. I don't know about you, like we hear those type of words and statements. And that is, speaking like that to your mate will literally damage and can really crumble a relationship, because you're speaking death onto your relationship, financial death on your relationship, because you're not inclusive of them. And then we also let them know that from a male point of view, like let's say the scenario that you provided and that Reverend also spoke on too, where the husband is the one that in this particular situation is running the funds. If he's not treating his wife right, we let him know now your prayers won't be answered. And then we tell her, is that what you want? His prayers not getting answered. Who does that affect? And then they'll go, me. Yeah, it affects you. It affects your children. So you need his prayers to be answered. So do you think he's strong enough? Do you think you're strong enough to handle what may occur with this? And have you figured out what's going to happen to your intimacy? How are you going to date your mate? How are you guys going to stay connected? How are you not going to allow all these things, finances or the look of finances and having this filtered life not affect your core relationship? Like, how are you going to stop that? And when we start throwing it out there to them, they don't like it, but they respect it later. And it's the same thing that happened with that couple. We've had that scenario happen with quite a few of the couples. And then they have to be honest with themselves, because if you lie to yourself, then there is nothing else that anyone else can do, right? If you're lying to yourself, there's a problem, and so they have to be realistic with themselves and say, can I make it? And I had to be honest with me and Cornell one time. We were talking about things, and just a quick example, same thing. I said, hey, if you are away from me, because he was going to take a job where he was going to be far away from me. And he was for, I would say about 6 months of our first son's during my pregnancy. And because he wanted to take this other job. And I told him, I thought I was big and bad and I could do this all by myself, but I'm a lie. I can't do it. I need you here. I miss you. And this is hurting me to my core. And I can't do this. And I don't want to go to these doctor visits by myself. I don't want to not experience this with you. And money's not everything. How you need it. It will help you. It's a vehicle, right? Because God is the one that gives us the power to gain wealth. Yes. But if you let it lead you and you think it's the most important thing in life, you can't hug your money at night, right? You can't hug your house and your cars and take it with you. I want my husband to hold my hand. I want him to have my back. I want to have his back. And I wanted us to have a deeper level of intimacy, like intimacy, like I needed that. And so you cannot have that if you are putting money first over love.
Okay. Hey, Cornell, let me ask this funny question. If your wife is giving you this much love and the feeling of being wanted and needed, how much pressure does that put on your finances? Does it
Well,
make you feel like, oh, does it make you feel like, hey man, this, the way she's loving me, I gotta take her to a vacation, I gotta buy her this? Does it make you feel like a little more pressure on your finances? Is this
no,
it's a funny question though?
no, not at all. Because my finances are her finances. Senator, so the money is the money. So if I'm buying it, she paying for it. If I'm buying it, we paying for it. Either way it goes, it comes out the same pot.
Yes,
So
it does.
it's all good.
I love that. And that takes us to the next episode where I want us to look at who pays for what, who has more money or who has a better job right from the get-go and all of that. But we want to do that right after this short break. We would continue the conversation with our beautiful guests. I think it's been very interesting and informative so far. We shall be right back to continue this. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. This is Senna, and we are talking about marriages, specifically challenges of finances in marriages. Does it hurt it? Obviously, it looks like if you're having challenges in marriages, the obvious thing is that is going to have a poke in your faith, in your love, and how strong is your love to be able to sustain those hard times or those challenges. And those challenges can come in different forms, and so we want to dive further into it. Our guests are here. The commercial you just watched is part of our branch services here at the Progressive Mind Show. If you are in need of branding, social media management, video editing, all types of graphic work, from logos to graphic work and again apps, reach out to us. We would give you good quality graphic work at very competitive prices. The number to reach out to is 815-409-9123, 815-409-9123, or you can email us at info.progressiveminds@gmail.com, info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. Also would like to inform and remind our audience of the exchange ceremony coming, Restoring the Royalty, June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. This is a moment where we bring the diaspora together to celebrate our cultures collectively as we restore royalty. In a minute, I will be talking a bit about that. But before I continue with that conversation, let's go back to our guests to resume where we ended. And it's been very interesting so far. The phone number is 815-277-5047 for those who want to chime in. Let me come back to you, Reverend. Let me go to Reverend Annette on this one. I've been I know she's been up all day. She's tired, so I don't want to work you out too much, Reverend Annette. So pardon me. But you've been very awesome so far with the background that you're coming from and the wealth of knowledge that you have in marriage counseling and all. So I want to ask, when it comes to dating, who should be paying for the meal frequently? Now we know obviously the man pays, but is become, I think what we are all noticing is that, or what, yeah, that's a norm. The men always pay, but people also have, this is another school of thought that says, well, the bills should be splitted. Now, what do you believe? What's your belief, or what's your take on that practice?
So I believe that based on our culture and tradition, that is big on it. Coming from, again, what I know from the African culture, it is expected that the man pays for everything. But I've also been involved in other cultures where it's not a question of a gender payment or who pays, but it's 50-50, or whoever has the financial ability to pay. And for me, I believe that it shouldn't be, let's go and on this date, let's split the bill and 50-50. But whoever initiated that, let's go out this time, that the conversation be had. And it's okay, in my personal opinion, it's okay for the woman to pay if she's able. And it's okay for the man to pay if he is able to pay. At the end of the day, when or if you both end up getting married, it's not always going to be one person that's paying. And I believe that is something that should be started in the dating process, where we look and we equally, not again. So let me explain this the way I see marriage. It's a partnership, but it's not a 50-50 partnership. It's a partnership where you are weak, God has made me stronger. Not strong, stronger to help. So there are days that in that partnership, it's going to require 80% of me and 20% of you. And there are days that it's going to require, or certain places that it's going to require 70% of you and 30% of me. For me, that is what even the dating process should be involving, because we get caught up in the male thing, the female thing, as opposed to where has God strengthened me and where has God strengthened you? And let's put our strengths together so that when you're down, I can pull you up. And when you're up, I'm up, you can pull me. So that's my perception.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Elder Cornell, should a lady see this as a red flag when a man asks her to chime in on the bill when they go on dates? Should this be a red flag?
Yeah. Let's say this: if they had the conversation before, that we're gonna go Dutch, right? For lack of a better word. So you pay for you, I pay for me. We're good. Then okay, that's fine. But like Reverend said, if I initiate the date, and then at the end of the day, and on some to a certain extent, you think about it. If I initiate the date, well, you invited me to this place, so I'm assuming, because we didn't talk about it, I'm assuming that you got me, right? That's what she's thinking. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, you got yourself, right? You got your part of it, and I got mine. So if we're not having those conversations, and then we can't just start assuming, especially nowadays, because I've got guys and friends who are dating now, and it's crazy out there. Women expect certain things nowadays, and vice versa, so do men. So I do think it goes back to having the conversation, like, let me take you out? If I say that, that's me. I got you. But to a certain extent, I want to be wooed too. So if my wife takes me out, again, it's the same money though. But if she takes me out and she pulls out her joint card, I still feel some type of way. I feel good on the inside, like she's got me. So, and then it's a funny thing too. We had a young couple in this last class we taught. They were on a date. And they were at a spot where they didn't take debit cards. And so the gentleman, he had took his girlfriend out. They've been together for like 2 years. And he had taken her out. And she didn't want him going to an ATM and paying like $10 for a fee, right? And she's like, I got it right here. Just take it. And for the life of him, he would not take it. It made him feel some type of way because he's taking her out and he didn't want to take it. But it got to the point where he realized what she was saying was a valid point. Well, I'm going to spend this extra $10 when you've got it right here. And if we're dating and we're committed to one another and you're doing this for me, he realized in that moment that just further showed him that she's the one, because they're taking our class. So he already knows she's the one. But that happened during the class. And he's like, that just cemented to me, like, she's got me. where Pastor just said, well, I fall short and my debit card didn't work. She picked me up and she was stronger in this moment. And so he realized, like, this girl is for me. She's for us because she wants us both to succeed in this moment. And that spoke volumes for a couple who was only like 19 and 20 years old. Right. And those are the ones like we're more encouraged by the couples in their 30s, because it shows that they still value marriage at that young age. And again, they're going to be a light for somebody else at that young age.
No, brilliantly said, and I really appreciate it. And I'll think I'll have the ladies respond to this. Is there any more an indicator of a woman's interest in the man or a woman's futuristic plan for the man she's dating or courting if she spends on him? And is that okay? I'll start with you, Annette. When a woman does
spending
that,
on him again,
is it when she's doing that? Is it an indicator of an intrinsic love or interest in the man's future? Is that an indicator? Would you count that as a clear or key indicator of who this woman sees him now and in the future?
See, the conversation we're talking about is giving.
The reason why I ask, hold on a second. The reason why I ask this question is that, yes, we are accustomed to men spending on the woman, right? Or taking the woman out, courting her, especially when you're courting her, right? And all over the world, men give, that has been the role. Of course, it's not always like that, but traditionally and normally that's what happens. So again, when you were dating, and even in dating, men take the women out, we buy gifts and all of that. And so if it's the opposite, what does that mean? Is what we are trying to learn as men. So
in the opposite meaning, is the woman the one that initiates?
Is the woman, if a woman is spending on the man more often, is that any indicator of her view of him for the now and for the future? Because go ahead.
So for me personally, I don't see that gender thing. Okay. I believe that it should be equally given and equally taken.
Okay, but right? what if it's one-sided from the woman?
One-sided, from the woman. For me, it's a red flag.
From the reason
woman. Why I say it's a red flag is I'm speaking for my son's future. Okay. If you're dating a woman and you're the one that's always giving because men are supposed to be given and she's just taking. For me, it's a red flag. It's the same thing when we flip that coin and a woman is given and given and given. Why is only one person giving? Is it because the other, we've both understood that this person is at a financial corner where they can't give, and so then I am stepping in? Okay. Or is it, whether male or female, I'm desperate and I want to just prove to you that I want you so bad. I'm just going to give you in hopes that I win you. So it depends. I don't think there's a problem if the woman is giving just as much as there's no problem if the man is giving. Right. If there is a reason for the giving that is going to be mutually beneficial to both of them, i.e. maybe the man has lost his job, or the woman has lost her job and financially they are at a challenge. But if I'm giving, and I'm not receiving, then for me, it's a red flag, irrespective of who is doing that.
Okay. So, Ronda, if a woman is doing that, maybe now, I wouldn't say consistently, but if she often does that to a man she's engaged to or a man that she's dating, what is the true meaning behind that? Is it just because, I want to help him? Or is there another meaning to that type of act? Again, being a man and not being in that situation, not being on the opposite side, I'm used to giving, or we know that we give. So if it's the other way around, from a woman perspective, is there a meaning that we should know, men should know?
You know what? That one depends. It really depends. It's on the case by case basis, I would say. I'm going to go take it back to myself, right? So if I were to do that often, the way I would view someone who is the one that in a dating relationship and they're always giving and taking care of that particular person. I think you're training that person how to treat you, and you're training them of what the expectation is. And so if you want something different, you have to do something different. But if you continue, you're always paying for everything, then you can't complain after the marriage when that person is saying, well, hey, you always did this. This is what you always, and now you want to change, the program in a sense, right? I mean that in a sense, like you're training someone, you just keep purchasing, buying. And if I were the man in that situation, I would think there is an esteem issue. I would think that you feel like you have to buy me in order to keep my time. And I would also think, that insecurity is running you. And we know perfect love casts out fear, right? The one who is made in fear is tormented. And so you're sitting around thinking, oh, maybe I have to do this and this and this for you. And will you love me? Will you care for me? And what'll happen is that man, in most instances, from what my experience, will actually either feel, if you take the chase away from men, this is what I have noticed. I'm not saying this is for every man, but if you take the chase away from men, if you don't give them an opportunity to in a sense, hunt. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. If you take that away from them, then they'll never fight for you all the way through. You need them to know how to come for you, how to fight for you, to have your back. And if you're always the one taking care of everything, you can't be upset if their marital muscle is weak.
Okay. Could that be any scenario where a woman would want to do that, and why?
I can give you an example of something that I did for my husband, but it wasn't monetary. I was gift giving because I love him and I was trying to show him. And one of the things I did is we were first dating, his birthday is in December. He's December 23rd. And I knew what happened to him as he was growing up is that he only got one gift, and that was on Christmas, and he didn't get anything for his birthday. So what I did is I wanted to make sure that going forward, he has 2 separate days. So my family, all of us, we gave him a birthday party, had a birthday cake, everything. And I gave that to him because I wanted him to see his birthday matters. Because if he wasn't here, we wouldn't be able to celebrate Christmas, and stuff like that. And then for Christmas, I got him a separate gift. And, I'll let him speak for himself. But I felt that, giving him that gift or showing him I was listening, that's when I feel like those gifts are really powerful. Like if you're just giving and you're just throwing money at something, at a situation, it's different. But if you're doing some active listening and caring about what they care about, and then the result is a gift, then I think it's more meaningful.
Okay. Cornell, how important is the act of women giving to men, right? Or buying something for men, or doing, having financial obligation to men? How important, if it is at all, to men?
I don't think it's overly important. And also it goes back to what's your love language as well, right?
Right.
So if you're acts of service, that acts of service might be giving that gift. Versus if you're like receiving gifts, that's your love language, then that's what you hold on to. So it comes down to like, what is your love language in that aspect? I don't necessarily think it's like a deal breaker or anything. Like I have to get something from you, or otherwise I feel some type of way. I more tend to think like when I do get something for you, I cherish it more because I didn't expect it. Those unexpected gifts are the ones that really count the most, because once you start expecting something, then you get in that habit, like Ronda said, of like, where's it at? Like you did it last time, why didn't I get a gift this time? And I'll take you back to before I was married, before I was saved. I was dating a young girl.
Okay.
And she gave me a gift, didn't know it was coming. She gave me like a jogging suit at the time, right? And I wore it. It was a nice jogging suit. I wore it. I loved it. I liked it. And then it got to a point where she was like, well, where's my gift? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I thought you gave me this out of the kindness of your heart. Like, what? I had to get you something back. See, once it starts being a tit for tat, then you start realizing like, oh, this wasn't given. That let's say that right now. That's actually what I just hit on. it has to be a gift from your heart. If it's a gift from your heart and you're not expecting anything, then that's those true gifts. But once you start, where's mine? Where's mine? I did this for you. We start keeping tally and checking boxes and keeping score, then that relationship is doomed to fail.
Oh, right. Exactly. So as a young man or a young woman, these are some of the indicators to be looking out for when you're dating or when you're in a relationship. So we don't end up in situations where finance becomes the issue for our relationships. That's brilliant. Do you all believe in prenups? Let me start with Mrs. Reverend Annette there. I don't know why I mentioned your whole name, but I just felt
personally,
go ahead.
I'm not speaking for the church, I'm speaking for me. Personally, I do not believe in prenups.
Okay.
The reason why I don't believe in it is I'm telling you that I'm coming in expecting that I'm going to leave you.
Yeah.
I believe in the sacredness of marriage. I believe in the power of the vows that I took. I thought about the vows before I took it. And so we chose not to write our own vows, but to go with that for better, for worse. And we knew exactly what we were signing ourselves up for when we brought God into that covenant. So again, personally speaking for myself, I do not believe in prenups.
Okay.
I love Reverend Annette. I really do. Like, it's alignment.
Yes.
We do not believe in prenups either. Nope. We're going to make it hard for you to leave.
we came into this thing together, bro. We're going to grow together. Senna, in my own opinion, I knew where we were going. So why am I limiting myself by signing a prenup on something when I know it was sky's the limit? And God wants more for me than I can want for myself. Yeah. So no, prenup was never a question, never even thought about. That's the stuff you see on TV.
Yeah. It's to me, I feel like you're creating an exit strategy, and I don't plan for this to be an exit. There's certain words that we say we will never say. We don't say divorce unless we're teaching, but we will never say divorce to one another because we will be married until the Lord comes back. That's the way that we always think about it. Yes. And my children look at it that way too, because we don't want to train our children and as well as new marriages that, hey, when things get tough, we can bail out. We got a prenup, we can get out. We made it easy for the marriage to end. No, I'm just like Reverend Annette with this. I said my vows before the Lord and I take those seriously. That was covenant. It's not contract, it's covenant. And, we teach this all the time. A contract will tell you I'm going 50%. Whereas covenant says, I'll meet you 110%. You're going to go over and beyond to keep it together. And a prenup is just the antithesis of that. And I do not believe in it. And I tell everyone else that, and I'm passionate about that. I get fired up about that. And don't get me started on hyphenated last names too, because it's the two things that I feel.
Well, okay. Thanks for sharing your opinion on that, and I really appreciate it. When it comes to again, the same topic, staying on the same issue, finances. If a man, has, a lesser income as compared to the woman, whether in dating or in marriage. Now, once you're married, you're already there, so you can reverse the situation. But before you get there, are these? Is this something that a lady should be looking out for, or even the man should be considering that? Hey, if my income is less than yours, then I don't even have to talk to you. Should that be an issue, or should that be the case? Let me start with CONELL.
I believe it shouldn't be an issue. We make it an issue because if you think about it, outside voices, outside noises will tell you she make more than you. What are you doing, or vice versa? A woman's friend will be like, "Why you with that?" What was TLC? Was it Scrub? Was
it Scrub?
Why you with that Scrub? He making less than you. You should be with a man on your level. And the point of this or a relationship in general is to grow and have stack building blocks, because that's what we tell couples, like, it's about a firm foundation, right? So the base of your foundation is where you kind of lay that groundwork, and you establish that going forward, and that's how you build your house on that strong foundation. So the fact of the matter is, no matter who's making more money in that moment, who's to say what God is going to give you later on down the line versus where you start? Because it also goes to a man's ambition. From just speaking on a man, so if he's comfortable making, let's say, $75,000, and this is good, and this is the only place he wants to be, if you all haven't had that conversation about him just staying there and not wanting more, then that might become an issue. But if you've had that conversation about that's what he's comfortable with, because making that $75,000 allows him to do other things. For instance, he gets his time back because he makes his own schedule. He gets to pick up the kids every day from school because of the fact that he doesn't want to pursue that next promotion. You know what I mean? So as long as you're having those conversations about where we're at with our money and where we're trying to go with it, then you'll be fine. But just don't let outside influences come in and deter you from a good thing. But at the same time, as a man and a woman, you can't, we tell them you can't build a bear, right? So you can't build somebody into something you desire them to be if they don't desire it for themselves. So if they don't have the same desire as you and vice versa, this can't go anywhere. This can't, it can only be what it is.
That's
Right.
I would tell you that if it's a red flag in that, it would be just like my husband said, ambition, but do you have poverty of mind, right? If you can't see us moving forward or having things, I think that would be more of a deterrent if you actually have it at that moment for me and what I instruct, couples on. Especially, it depends on the ambitions of both of those individuals, right? And I keep going back to being equally yoked, right? You can be unequally yoked in ambition. You could not. There's things, if we go into Deuteronomy, we all know all of the generational curses that are there. So you have to be careful of what you're marrying into. And are you with someone that has a belief structure? It's in their DNA, right? In a sense, their spiritual DNA, that they don't believe in moving forward. They have a spirit of lack, and so they can't move forward. And so you want to move forward. And if you bind and you go into covenant with that person, is that what you want? Because now you've tied into that. Now your spiritual DNA is aligned. You are one flesh, and so you got to think about those things. And so that's why even with business situations, we always say, hey, that's covenant. You have to make sure, do you want to align with that person? Have you done your research to see if that's where you want to go? So what they have when you first start dating, not so important. It's about where they plan to go.
Right. Where they plan to go. Reverend Annette, you want to respond to that?
Yes. So this is what my husband has shared this publicly, so I can't share it. If he hasn't, I wouldn't.
Okay.
But when we met, I was the financially stronger one, right? But this is what I tell people that are dating, looking to get married, is this one phrase that I hope we would all remember, is that date looking for character and values, not achievements. Look for character and values, not achievements. So if the woman is making more or the man is making more, one of the characteristics, traits that the elders have talked about here is ambition. They may be in a situation, in this instance with my husband and I, he was in school, I was working. He was newly in the country. I had been here for a while, right? But just because I was financially stronger didn't mean I was the one pursuing. I still believe that my grandmother would say, is the dog that chases the bone, not the bone that chases. So I'm very old school. I was raised by grandmama, okay?
Okay.
I believed in those things. So he did majority of the pursuing and the hunting. But when it came to decisions that we made, I'm a very, very, very strong on boundaries. So I knew the boundaries that I was supposed to cross and the boundaries that he was not supposed to cross. And today he talks about it to the congregation. When I gave him something, it was a loan and he had to pay back. And I was very sure he paid it back. But going on that, it does not really matter if the woman makes more. She's supposed to look for what are the characteristics and the values that are important to me. And is this man worthy of that character or those characters? And is he kind? Is he hardworking? If he's hardworking, he may not be making it now. Does he have a vision? Does he have an ambition to where we can be and build together? And 18 years later, that man is making way more than I do. His vision is way more. So we have to look at him where he was 19 years ago. We wouldn't be here because I would have restricted myself just based on but I looked beyond what he had achieved, and I looked at what are the qualities, the characteristics, the vision, and the values that this man brought to the table.
Fantastic. How about education? Let's add education to the piece. You know, higher education than the other. The female has, you know, PhD. The guy doesn't. You know, would you advise a lady who probably has a PhD or a very high education level, and the guy doesn't? Maybe all he has is high school. Is that something? And is that something that you should even entertain to find out, okay, what are his characters and values? Or should you just say, hey, that is a non-starter. We can't even start from there if I'm that high from you. Should that be an issue? Annette, you want to continue from there?
I think it falls on the same line as the finance. If he has a high school and you have a PhD as a woman, or vice versa, are you okay with it? Is this something that is in alignment with your values? It's individual basis, and I don't think that it should be a cookie cutter for me to say, because I'm a woman and I have a PhD, I should not date someone that has a high school degree. For me personally, I tell this, I am very intellectually driven, and so I needed a man that could challenge me intellectually. Right? That it didn't mean that the person has to have a PhD, but can we have a conversation where I'm talking about stats and what the global economy is, or where the health crisis is going, or healthcare is going, and he's looking at me, scratching his head, going, ha, ha, ha. We're talking about how communication is very, very, very important. So it's not so much the degree, but is our communication on the same level? He could be a high school dropout for all I know, but if the person is maybe well read, they invested in their growth that way, that we can have a decent conversation and communication. For me, I don't think the degree or level of education is so much important as to, can we communicate and be on the same level?
Can we communicate and be on the same level? So that's what people should be looking out for.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Looks like you all agree too.
Yeah, actually,
when are you going to disagree? At least on this show, when are you going to?
No, we're just in tune.
We are in tune. You know,
we've got the same walks of life, and it's actually. I'm
messing with you guys. Go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, to that point, when me and Ronda got married, she actually had to step away from school when she was younger because she had to go to work because her dad, you know, he had lost his job because of this, that, and the other. And so to help the family, she had to step away from school. And it got to the point where, you know, life just started happening. And though she wanted to and she desired to get back to it, she just never did at that point. And truth be told, she was making more money than people with degrees, but it still was something that was in her that she desired. And so after we got so far into our marriage, I found myself, because I already had mine, I found myself pushing her to go back and finish because I knew she had that desire. And she literally just got her doctorate this past year because she went back and finished that up. But let me be clear. She went back and finished everything, and now she's into her doctorate. Let me be clear. I apologize. But the fact of the matter is she had that desire. It goes back to desire. I saw it in her. She saw it in me, and I knew it was something more that she wanted. And as me as a husband, it's upon me to help fuel her fire. You know, I can't dim her light. I don't want to. Like I want her to achieve everything in this world that she desires, and vice versa. She wants the same for me, and we want some of those things together. But it's so important that as the individual that she is, whatever that desire is, if I'm able to help her get to that point or do what I can do, like as far as watching the kids so she can do homework to 2 a.m. and things like that. I've got to do that because that's what I signed up for. Again, this marriage is not for the weak. You got to be battle tested and strong. That's right. You got to be willing. Exactly. You got to be willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good, and this is my greater good. And in moments like Pastor was saying, like certain things Ronda's stronger than me at, and vice versa. And in that vein, I've got to make sure I lift her up where she doesn't want to do homework sometimes. Go get that homework done. I'll cook dinner. I'll figure out a way to get this, that, and the other done so you can do what you have to do. Yeah. But again, it goes back to us having that conversation. Like, do you want to go back to school? Do you want this? Do you want that? And, you know, and we just building those building blocks, like I said before.
Yeah. I think what Reverend Annette said about the ambition and the character, I think our character was in alignment with one another. Like we often spoke about our dreams. We always used to say, instead of bursting at the seams, bursting at the dreams, you know, and we would write down all that, and that was inspiring. And so we would push and push until we got there. And so from an educational standpoint, my husband had his finance degree, and I wanted to be able to have more opportunities and the door open for me as well. And, you know, going back to, I don't regret stopping to make sure things were taken care of, because, you know, my dad, he had gotten laid off. My mom was sick. She had cancer at the time, and she's in remission, thank God. And when all that occurred, you know, things had to happen, but it taught life skills. And so you want to look at a mate and see, do they have life skills? Do they know how, when, you know, things, you know, hit the ground, when you hit the floor hard, do you know how to get back up again and again and again? And you just keep leaning on the Lord in order to do so. So those are characteristic traits that you want strong in your relationship. And there was something else that Pastor Annette said too, that 100% aligns with, and I feel like it's divine that we're all on this call together today too. But we always talk about the 11 theory, because our mentors that taught us prior to us taking over the class, they would talk about the 11 theory. And they would say, hey, who's stronger at finance? Who's stronger at bringing in revenue? And I was really strong at bringing in revenue and saving. He was really good at investing and things along that line. So, you know, she would say, who's in the number one spot? If you both were 11s, if you both have the same value, who's in this spot in the 10th position, right? And so whenever it was an opportunity for me to move into the front, I would move, but our value wouldn't change, you know? And so we would stay the same. And then if he moved into the front to make sure our finances were in order and credit scores were going up, then he would move in that spot, but our value didn't change. We were just using each other's strengths at the given time when it was appointed by God for it to be done so. So in agreement.
Wow.
And so it don't hurt that her job paid for the education too. So that was the bonus. Like, go get that. Go get that free money. Come on.
It sure did.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, guys. It's very educative and lively. I really appreciate it, and I think our guests, our audience, are also learning. We will be wrapping up the conversation very soon, but I would like to take this quick announcement before we continue the conversation. So the flyer is on the screen. So it is the 4th annual exchange ceremony. It's coming forth. It's coming off this June 22nd. It's a 3-day event. We're going to have a first day, a business meeting connecting Africa businesses and Americans. And we're bringing the business folks, business leaders coming from Ghana that are going to be connecting with American business here. So you want to make a date with us on the 20th of June at the Dusabo Museum. Further information will be on the exchange ceremony social media platforms, the exchange ceremony. Then the 21st is a Friday. That is where we will be having an educational piece regarding the diaspora's connectivity to one heritage, which is Africa. We want to learn about how slavery and colonialism has affected all of us as Black people. So June 21st, also at the Dusabo Museum, make a date with us. It's going to be very, very interesting. This is a time that we all have to start learning about how we are all connected as Black people. So this event is bringing the Black family together to celebrate our cultures through food, dance, and fashion. And we're also going to be restoring the royalty of African Americans. We believe that the folks, our brothers and sisters who love the shores many years ago, many decades, centuries ago, did lose, was stripped off of their royalty. And as we talk about unifying and healing, there's a need for us as Africans to reach out to our brothers and sisters and restore what was stolen or what was stripped from them as we exchange our cultures. And so it's going to be a beautiful ceremony and is geared and designed to bring us healing and unification among the diaspora community. And so June 22nd is going to be the culmination of a beautiful 3-day event here in the city of Chicago. And we're celebrating this event in the spirit of Juneteenth. because we all understand the work that has been put forth by our Black American brothers and sisters when it comes to civil rights, building of this country, and all of it. The impact here in America and around the world has been enormous. And so we have to come together as Black people to acknowledge each other, respecting each other, and respecting and acknowledging each other's culture through this exchange ceremony 3-day event. So we're inviting all of you to take note of it. Tickets are available as we speak on Eventbrite, Falcon Tickets, and Event Noir. You can go on our website, theexchangeceremony.com, theexchangeceremony.com, and get your tickets. The flyers are also on the social media. You can share it with friends and like-minded folks. King from Ghana, Togbe Nyahota Maklo, is coming again. This is going to be his third time journeying to America to embrace our brothers and sisters, atoning for the past, and unifying all of us, and restoring royalty, crowning. There's going to be a live coronation of kings and queens. So we want to invite all of you to see how it's done and how rich our heritage and royalty is as Black people collectively. So join us this June 22nd, especially the June 22nd Saturday, for this beautiful celebration, because it's going to be a display of a lot of royalties. There are a lot of royalties in the city of Chicago, the Ghanaian, not just the Ghanaian community, but the African community in its entirety. So we're inviting all these royalties to come. There's going to be clergy folks. It's going to be business leaders, politicians, and the general community is being invited to this event. It's going to be food of Taste of the Diaspora, where we're going to engage in different kinds of foods representing the diaspora. So it's a beautiful event that is designed to help us heal and unify us as a people. So take note of the date, June 20th, 21st, or more especially June 22nd. Save that date and go on the website and get your tickets. Let's continue our conversation about marriage and relationships. Now, I know time is far spent. It's about 5 minutes to 7:45. We want to be able to wrap it around that time. We promise not to go to 8 p.m. So let's try. I want us to get these 2 questions out of the way real quick. And I'll start with you, Annette, real quick. Is there a tendency for women, because again, we all know that men have been in that role of provision, for the most part. Is there a tendency for women to get frustrated in the marriage when the balance tilts and she has to handle that piece for, I would say, a long period of time?
I think it depends on the woman. It depends on the relationship. It depends on the couple.
All right.
And these are things that we need to know going into the relationship or the marriage. For a man, you should be asking yourself, is this the right help meet me? Not only can he hold it down if I'm not able to for an extended period, the woman should also be asking herself the same thing. Oftentimes it falls on, like Sana, the question that you're asking, that if the woman is supposed to hold the fort, does she get tired? Is
it naturally frustrating for a woman when she does that?
Right, does she get frustrated? But we also should look at the other side of the coin. If the woman, for whatever reason, is not able to take care of the children, will the man be frustrated? You see,
I think we will be frustrated.
But it shouldn't be, right? Because even though the woman is the seed carrier, at the end of the day, we both have been equipped to do so. So even though the man is the one that is the hunter, at the end of the day, the woman should be able to take care if, for whatever reason, the worst happens. Because we said for better, for worse. And so when we're going into relationships, let's have that also at the forefront, as opposed to the bank account, the height, the achievements.
Well said.
Does this person have the quality that I need if the worst happens?
Right. So I like how Annette smartly avoided a yes or no to that question. Rhonda, is it
the same thing?
do women have the tendency of getting frustrated in the long run if they have to, foot the bill or hold the forts?
I think that's a personality question, right? There, yeah, because it's not gender based. I think if anyone feels that they are doing more and they're not, they're doing their unfair share of the work, and the other person is not doing their fair share, I think any person, male or female, is going to have frustrations. So that's the truth of the matter.
Okay, fair response. I appreciate it. fair response. I appreciate it. But okay, Cornell, let me push you. Do you, in your lifetime, have you observed, what has been your observation when it comes to that role? You think that women most of the time act out or show more frustration when they're in that role? Have you observed that?
I can't speak for a woman, but I can tell you about myself.
Okay.
I've gotten permission from my wife to share this story. We've done it many a times. when we were young in our marriage, she told you the story about me going out of state to get a job, and I did that because we met at work, like most couples tend to do sometimes, because you're always at work. And so I left that job, and she stayed, and she thrived. She thrived so much to the point where she was, for lack of a better word, a level 4, right? And so with that came more responsibility and more people under her, which required her to work more hours. So with the job I went to, I got to set my own hours. So therefore, I was able to pick up the boys from daycare and make sure, this and this was done. And, we were at home until she would get home. And again, the job required her that she had to stay. And I knew the job because I did it myself for 4 years. But in those moments, I got to a point where I saw myself getting frustrated because in my mind, because your mind can play tricks on you. So in my mind, I was telling myself, well, she's out there having fun, working, and I'm at home with these kids. What's up with this? And so I had convinced myself that she was out having more fun than I was at home, taking care of our children. And we had to literally have the conversation she's like, what do you think I'm out here doing? I'm literally working till 10 o'clock at night. And I understand you have the kids, but I'm again working. I'm at work. So what's really going on with you? And I really had to find it within myself and just check my own spirit, where it just got to the point where I realized that I needed time with her as well as time for myself. And we had to have those conversations and have a check-in with one another where we had lost that little bit of communication because work became a priority for what we're trying to do for our family.
Okay, great.
And so in that moment, I had got frustrated, but not so much with her, but with my own mindset and where I was, that I had to check my own spirit.
Awesome. Great point. Also all about mindset. Thank you so much for sharing. I said this is going to be the last question, but I have a bonus question. Now, let me go to the last question, which is the actual last question, which is, should every relationship indulge a financial advisor, or more so when you're married?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes.
So we'll answer real quick. Yes.
I
have to say, the Bible says seek wise counsel, right? Sure. That doesn't just mean other couples that's going to help me through certain things. That also could mean a financial advisor, a financial planner, anything financial wise that's going to help this grow. Why wouldn't we seek out those avenues if we have the availability to do so?
Right.
Because to not do it would be to hinder us, and hinder where we can go with this thing of life if you don't take advantage of every opportunity you're given.
Gotcha.
Back to what we said earlier, where there are couples that it has not, for our community, it has not been grandfathered in. It's not something that we learn often. Financial literacy is not a language we speak, right, all the time. And so, yes, get a financial advisor. We actually will show couples financial advisors. We will give them budget trackers. We give them all type of things for them to understand real life scenarios. We have done role plays where we give them a scenario and make them work through it and say, these are the only resources you have, make it work, And so, yes, as many opportunities that you can, and also look at their fruit. Don't just look at what they're saying, because there's a lot of people that will unfortunately scam us because we do not know that information and we're seeking knowledge, and then they'll use that as an advantage. So remember, we don't want to, be ignorant of his devices, but pay attention to what they're saying and then look at their fruit. Do they have it when they're telling you what to do? Is it just sound advice, or is it actionable and you can see it in their life?
Awesome.
If that makes sense.
Reverend Annette, how critical is that in any relationship that's leading to marriage, or even in marriage itself?
Absolutely, yes. And I will take it even a notch further, is that if you have children in that marriage, get the children involved in the financial literacy along the journey, because we want to build and hand it to them. But statistics shows that inheritance, about 80% of inheritance is gone within the first 5 years, and within the first 3 years, and by 5 years, 90% of inheritance that is handed down is squandered. Why is that? Because we give to someone that is not trained and equipped to manage it.
Right. So right.
We should not just, get the financial advisor. We have a financial advisor, but we also have our children involved in financial literacy.
Yes. And can I add this too, just because this is so important? If I could give any advice to those that have the little ones out there, get them involved in, trading, even young. You can get them a small account and let them trade. On their birthday, you give them a little amount, and then allow them to learn how to do that financial, gain that financial acumen. Super important to do that. And then most importantly, above all things, teach them through tithing, right? Give the full tithe to the storehouse, because our churches, they don't run on thank you. My mom used to tell me that when I was growing up. She said, my gas tank don't run on thank you, and neither does the church. So we need to make sure that they're taken care of, right? So that they can take care of others that walk into that house, right? So it's super important to do that. Bring your full tithe to the storehouse. And then again, when you are giving, it's not that it's in the scripture, like if you don't tithe, you're not going to heaven, things like that. People take it too far. It's not that, but it's when you are learning how to give, if you're learning how to finance, if you're learning that this is what I'm giving to the Lord. I'm not going tit for tat. It's not litigious, right? I'm giving because I love him, and it's the least I can do because of all the things he does for me, right? Then you start to look at money as more of a vehicle versus it being the most important thing in your life. That's for your children as well. So please get them involved in some type of financial trading.
Right. Or get them involved in your businesses, whatever you're doing, get them involved in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for mentioning tithe, because I know it has its own conversation on both sides. Maybe another day we will come here and talk about tithing alone, giving and tithing on the show. But thanks for sharing this. The bonus question is, quickly, because of time, in your work experience, again, as counselors, what are the feedbacks that you are getting from young people, or just people who are single folks who are looking to date and go into marriage? What are the feedbacks that you're getting from them in terms of the challenges they're having out there in the dating world? Annette, real quick.
Challenges are the men say that women are too high maintenance.
Okay.
And the women are saying that men are not matured enough. That's what I'm hearing. When I look through the lens and put on my discerning ears, what I'm seeing is that it's selfishness on both parts, where we're looking for what I can get in a relationship as opposed to what I can help build in a relationship.
Wow. So the men are saying the women are, again,
high maintenance.
Okay, and then women are saying men are immature.
The men are not matured enough.
Okay, all right.
Please,
can I go first? Please. Can I? Okay. Actually, it goes off of what Pastor said. From this kind of flipped. The fact is, the challenge is social media.
Yep.
And the fact that technology being so prevalent, where they all feel like they have so many options. All I do is swipe right on this one, swipe left on that one, or however it goes. And like no one has to work for anything anymore.
Mhm.
Like when I was a kid, I had to ride a bike to a girl's house or to go to get where I'm trying to go, right?
Mhm.
Versus swiping and meeting you here or just going online and yada yada yada. And there's no social interaction anymore. Like people can't talk anymore. I used to write love letters, you know. And if you think about it, they taking cursive out of school. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that these kids don't have nowadays that we have, or they don't care for. So it's technology though.
Right.
The other big one is engagement layaway is what we call it. There's a lot of people who are getting promised that they're going to get married after 5, 10, 12 years of dating. And then as soon as they're ready to break up, then they propose to them and they extend the engagement another 5 years. And so, they're being put on the shelf. And unfortunately, it's happening more to women. It does happen to men too, but it's happening more to women that we're hearing that they're losing their best years.
Okay. And are you also hearing what Pastor Annette shared?
Yes, absolutely. I'm hearing immaturity. I'm hearing also that just not ready to commit. You know, like they're just not ready to commit. And back to my husband, they have so many options, and sometimes both men and women are selling themselves so short. They're giving so much so quickly. And the best example, and it's brief, is that, you know, where's a young lady and a guy, they were intimate with one another prior to marriage and prior to dating. And then afterwards, we're trying to create a relationship. And the young lady said to us, I don't know if I can ask if we are exclusive or not. And I said, so you can share your most precious parts of you, and you don't know where you stand, you know, and you think that's of God, you know. And I'm not trying to bring them down or take them down. I want them to see that God doesn't make you feel that way. You always know where you stand.
Great. And I think that we've had we've exhausted every aspect of this financial challenges on this show. And I'm glad that we'll be able to do so. Of course, there's more, and this can keep going and on, but we will find time and come here again and talk about finding the right partner and all of that. So we hope to have you on the show. But this has been wonderful. Please, we only have few seconds, so 30 seconds to both of you to close us out. I'll start with Reverend Annette.
This is what I would say. I said it before. Look for character. Look for values. Make sure it's in alignment. In marriage, I've heard this evening that both the elders have said it. It's not for the weak. So if you don't have the strength and the fortitude to be able to hold on to somebody when they're in their worst, then maybe you should consider asking, is this for me? Paul the Apostle knew that marriage was not for him. And I believe that we need to be honest with ourselves if this is for me or this is not for me.
Awesome. The challenges of finances in marriages and relationships. Elder Cornell and Ronda, please, your closing remarks in 30 seconds.
I would just say that marriage is one long conversation that you have to have, that you should have, that you must have. And it's going to be checkered by disputes, right? So we're going to get on each other's nerves. We're going to push some buttons, but that's okay, because that's just iron sharpening iron. And actually, we don't call it disputes. We actually call it heated fellowship, because in fellowship, you're growing versus an argument where someone has to win. So when you fellowship together in those moments, this relationship can only grow from there.
Right. The issue of challenges in finances in marriage.
Talk about it. You got to talk about it.
Elder Ronda, your closing remarks, 30 seconds, please.
Put it all out on the table. Do not be afraid. Ask deep questions, but wait for answers. Don't accept for anyone just to tell you the surface level of things. When you can get deep, then that's how your relationship will really grow, right? Do not expect for anyone to just know where you stand. Be clear where you stand. Say what you want and say what you need. And don't forget. And when you get those things, thank them for the things that you like, so that behavior can continue.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much. We had Rebecca on here. She says, every marriage is different, so you have to marry on the principles of God. And then Rosalind says, great topic and discussion. And then another question from Rosalind says, okay, so ticket, so the 40 is general admission. You get to enjoy the taste of the diaspora. Just like everybody else, reception time, have some fun, and music, network. VIP, you get to sit with the royals, the king, and the other royals, and of course, some of the government officials that are coming through. So that's for VIP, $75, and $40 is for general admission. That's for the exchange ceremony. And Bridget says, great conversation. Thank you so much, Bridget, and for everyone that has joined in the conversation. This has been very thoughtful. We look forward to coming your way again. I want to thank you all for being part of the show, Reverend ANNET Adair, elders Cornell, Ronda, and your beautiful wife, Elder Cornell, and your beautiful wife, Ronda Collins. Thank you so much for being on the show. And again, Reverend ANNET, our prayers to your husband. Tell him.
Yes.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
That being said,
he said, great job.
thank you. Thank you so much. That being said, this has been your host, Senna, aka Alinko. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. We shall be coming your way next week, Tuesday, same time. Bye-bye.